Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My name is Abdik, and I would like to present the title of The Impact of Remittance on Economic Growth in Sub-Saharan Africa, presented by me, Abdikarim Shijama, with my colleague Khadar Ahmed Irir. Presentation outline will be introduction, overview on problem statement, significance of the study, empirical literature review, data and methodology, result and discussion, conclusion and policy implications. End of presentation. Introduction. Remittance are described as personal transfers, including cash and other items and compensation of workers. According to the World Bank 2007, it represents 27% of GDP of FDI inflows to developing nations. Technological progress increases the global transfer of personal payment at lower costs. According to Meyer and Sharia 2017, remittance contribute economic growth in various aspects. Firstly, it acts as an investment source in the local market through capital formation, which stimulates economic output. Goshen 2014. Secondly, it has a multiplier impact through consumption. Thirdly, the utilization of remittance will lead higher sales and employment gains. Overview and problem statement. Sub-Saharan African countries are usually underdeveloped in terms of economic because of the great population growth, higher unemployment, extreme poverty level, and low GDP per capita. Todora and Smith 2003. Sorry. For instance, GDP was 0.28%, population growth was 2.72, which shows that Sub-Saharan Africa is interpreted in low income asymmetry levels. Although the region has experienced a high remittance inflow as a result of high immigration individuals to developed countries, still the region has the lowest global remittance net inflows comparing the other regions such as Asia and America. World Bank 2016. Despite the huge impact of remittance on the act of emerging nations, there is an inconclusive argument on the influence on the growth. Following studies found a positive impact of remittance on economic growth, while the others have found negative or no significant relation between remittance and economic growth. Significance of this study. This study will contribute to relevant literature in three major segments. Firstly, there is a little empirical investigation on how remittance impact on economic growth in Sub-Saharan Africa, particularly. Next, the findings of current study will lead a better guidance outside the investments such as remittance and economic growth. Finally, the bundle data technique has a superior advantage compared to other series as it manages multiplanarity, heteroscedasticity, and estimation pies. According to Woodridge 2010 and Baltaji 2008, the major objective of the current study is to examine the effect of remittance on economic growth for the sample of sub-Saharan African countries, namely Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and Mauritius. This is the sample of empirical literature review, where some of them found positive relationship between remittance and economic growth, while others found negative relationship between remittance and economic growth. Slide 3.0 will highlight the data and methodology. The data of all variables are collected from World Bank dataset using the World Development Indicators as a source. Data covers mostly current year annually data from 2005 to 2020. Dependent variable is proxy for GDP per capita, while personal remittance is received as percent of GDP is proxy for independent variable. Other explanatory variable including labor force, gross capital formation, inflation, export, household funding consumption, real interest rate, and population. Bundle data regression is utilized to illustrate the effect of remittance on economic growth following the prior studies such as Maya Sharia 2017, Goshen 2014. This is the regression out display. This is the result and discussion based on random effect. So as we can see that the random based on the outcome of a random effect by using coefficient and standard deviation, t value and b value, we can see that remittance, which is proxy by REM, has a positive coefficient but statistically insignificant, while population has a negative coefficient and statistically significant at significant level of 1%. Household final consumption is also insignificant, while gross capital formation is also insignificant. Inflation has a negative coefficient and statistically significant, while RRI, which represents real interest rate, is also insignificant. LBF, which represents labor force, is significant and has a positive coefficient, a significant level of 1%. Export also has a positive coefficient and statistically least significant. So we perform Houseman tests to know which one of whether random effect or fixed effect is appropriate, and we can see that the random effect become a suitable model in our study. Also, we perform Lagrangian multiplier test to confirm the accurateness of random effect estimations. There is no heteroscedasticity issue since the p-value is greater than the level of significance. Durbin-Watson test also detect the null hypothesis since the value is close to 2. Remittances are found to have a positive and a significant effect on growth of sub-Saharan African countries. Results also support the notation that the remittance do not stimulate economic growth in emerging nations in line with the findings of Conti and Van Eyck et al. 2014. An insignificant impact of remittance on economic growth in sub-Saharan African region is commonly phenomena based on the previous studies such as Ahmed Kolibari 2013. Other experimentally valuable, including labor force household consumption, inflation, and population and export display a statistically significant influence on growth. Conclusion and policy implications. Current study examined the economic effect of remittance on economic growth in sample of sub-Saharan African countries of the period from 2005 to 2020. Insignificant effect of remittance on sub-Saharan African region economic growth could be explained one of the following causes. Firstly, remittance received in every sub-Saharan African nation seems to be not explicitly by the economic situation in the native countries, according to the Hamada and Kolibari 2013. Second, remittances do not significantly improve the investment since the most remittances are utilized for the Indian consumptions. Such acts will lead a remittance to be more detrimental to GDP growth through the Dutch disease phenomena, including the appreciation of real exchange rate and resource rearrangement to the non-tradable segment. Thirdly, the results could be attributed to the lack of properly structured financial systems that enhance economic growth. A policy suggestion for our results is that sub-Saharan African countries should execute economic strategies that can stimulate the financial system to meet the investment demands of its nations. Thank you. The end of presentation.